Welcome to Bullet Point. We are your host. I'm EP.
I'm JM.
Every week we're going to talk about competitive shooting and everything around it.
So, if you're an aficionado, enthusiast, a beginner, or just curious, this is your show.
You can easily connect with us, guys, through PHLV Radio Facebook page, Bullet Point Facebook page, or simply email us at bulletpointmediaproduction@gmail.com.
Now, don't forget to like, subscribe on our YouTube channel so you can get the latest episodes of Bullet Point. Are you ready?
Stand by. All right, JM.
Yes.
How was your weekend? The usual question. How was your weekend?
No, I think it was.
good?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we you and I shot Kingman.
Kingman, Arizona.
It was hot,
My God,
but-
that was so hot, man.
Yeah, it was hot, but it was fun.
It was fun.
Yes,
I
yes.
always love Kingman, Lake Havasu.
Yeah, good
I think-
stages.
I think the same people are the one making those stages.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. The Mojave Green Shooter. Shout out to those.
Shout out to
guys.
them, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then, what I like about them, it's not that, we were looking or we were expecting it. We were just waiting, and then they announced, the presence of Migs Valencia.
Oh, yeah. That was cool.
That was cool, guys.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Appreciate that. Yes,
That's so
yes,
good.
yes.
Well, for today,
Yes.
for tonight, we're going to talk about something about,
Yeah.
USPSA Meta in 2025.
Right.
What's that Meta?
What is Meta? Not the Facebook Meta.
Not the not the face. Oh yeah, that's not it. So this topic might be the single most important key for a faster classification, smart training, and more consistent match performance.
Yep.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, yeah, It's a great tool.
Yeah.
If you know how to use it.
Oh well, that's the truth.
That's the key word, right? That's the key word.
That's the key word. If you know how to use it. But
Yeah.
I think we had an episode that we were talking about being stuck in B class
Yep.
or wherever you are.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to break through to the next level. So you just want to make sure that you want to stay sharp and
Right.
relevant in the sport.
Yeah. And I think it consists of the whole aspect of not only just your shooting abilities,
Yeah.
but your gear, your
That's
training,
important,
your focus, how you focus on things, on your stages, and the return effort of that.
Yes.
And will be the key indicator of how meta would be used and suited for you.
And in fact, this is a very good timing to talking about Meta JM, because that's exactly what Migs was talking about.
Yeah.
When we interviewed him,
Right.
His processes.
Right.
That's exactly what Meta is all
Yeah.
about.
Yep, absolutely.
So again, in Meta, working harder doesn't always mean that you're going to shoot better.
Yeah.
And then
agree.
maybe you guys out there are going to say, what do you mean? Right? Because me, I trained thousands of rounds,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean, or even spend hours and
Yeah,
hours,
yeah,
at the
yeah.
range, what have you.
Yeah, you have that feeling sometimes when you're training, right? It doesn't matter. Like you've shot hundreds of rounds for that particular hour, and you're like, what? You're supposed to have a goal,
Yes.
right? And in the middle of that, sometimes you might get lost on that process,
Yeah.
and just end up kind of wasting your range
Exactly.
day,
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Money, time,
Right.
effort,
Yeah.
bullets.
Yeah.
You find yourself, you plateaued, you stagnate, right?
Right.
But some people, they train smarter.
Yeah.
Shorter sessions, then they do just targeted drills, better decisions, and rise faster through the ranks. What's the
Yeah.
difference between all of this? These two types of shooters.
Yeah.
The answer actually lies on that meta.
Yeah.
Meta. What is meta, JM?
Meta, I would okay. So meta is short for most effective tactic available.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a term originally made popular in competitive gaming.
Yeah.
Where players constantly evolve their loadouts, tactics, strategies to keep up with the shifting environments.
Yes.
So it applies to our sport, the USPSA sport,
correct?
right?
Yeah.
So in a world of competitive shooting, meta is current combination of gear,
The one
as
you
we
say.
talked about, right? Division,
Yes.
right? Strategy. and training, and the others that offers the highest return for your.
You were saying that.
Yeah.
The return of the effort.
The ROI.
The ROI. So what is meta is not just, what's legal under the rule book.
Yeah.
When you say, there might be some of you guys might be saying, what? It should be by the book, right?
Right.
But give us this chance, guys, to explain that. So, and then it's not just what you've been doing for years.
Yeah.
What? I've been shooting for the last 20 years. Yeah, right? Or what you actually personally prefer, So, meta is actually what works right now.
Right.
So in
Right.
fact, we were talking about USPSA 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It might be different now.
It is.
It changed.
Yeah. So why does meta matter?
Yeah.
Today, 2025.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And what you mentioned, USPSA has changed.
That's right.
Right. And within the 2025 brought in a return of movement heavy classifier stages.
I remember that. We talked about that, few episodes ago, right? 23 and 24.
24.
Yeah, and there's a reason why they did that.
And I've seen clubs on social media that have shot that.
Wow. Okay.
Those 23, 24
There you go.
stages already. And it's a nationally standardized hit factor.
Yes.
And it shifts in division popularity and scoring trends.
I've seen that. I've seen that lately. Yeah.
Whether you want to switch, or if you plateaued on one division,
Yes.
you wanted to jump onto a
Go
different
over,
one.
look at you.
Yeah.
Care optics might not be for you. Something like
Right.
Yeah.
And then gear innovations.
Yes.
That directly affect your performance. Right.
I saw that with you and Mix.
Yeah.
And I love that decision. That
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah.
Man.
So that's super important.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of folks just buys gear just
because
it's the it's the latest out there.
He has that.
Or he has that. Or my favorite shooter has it. Or endorses it, and they buy it, and then it end up, if you believe it or not, sometimes it makes an impact on how you're shooting.
Yeah. And
to basically just to summarize that, is to put simply, if you're not adapting, you're falling behind.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Because the division that were dominant in a few years ago, maybe lagging now.
Right. Right.
I'm just talking about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Might not be applicable today.
Like
right?
Limited.
Garner the limited this.
Single stack.
Wait, that's you and me.
What
right?
about Revolver?
Oh well, yeah. You know. Even production, So So the gear that once gave you the edge, I'm so good at this.
Yeah.
You have, you can get that bragging rights. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But that might be now the key that's holding you to go to the next level.
Yeah.
So and then maybe the training drills. In fact, this morning when I was looking at my dry fire, I was even asking myself, is my dry fire even applicable now to because I'm not just doing the just the dry fire, regular dry fire movements too, because a lot of our stages now, I don't know if you've noticed it, there's a lot of movements and running right now, right? So the training drills that you've been doing religiously may no longer reflect what the sport actually is all about, or is testing you. That's the thing. So instead of guessing or this, I tell this to myself, stubbornly sticking to what's familiar to us, right? So this meta thing is here to help us align our shooting life with what USPSA is rewarding right now. Because again, you mentioned USPSA changed.
Right. Yeah. So to your point, right? Why should you care about meta, right? So the hard truth is USPSA, our sport rewards strategy and efficiency, right? Not just effort. Right?
Oh, well, if it's just effort, I might be grandmaster now.
right. Same thing, right?
That's right.
Just like showing up is just an effort.
Effort. Okay, I'm a grandmaster. Why? Because I've been showing up.
Right. Well, with meta, it shows that the effort equals growth.
Yes.
Right, and training equals classification gains.
Yeah.
Right, and then gear is obviously that's where you save, some time, and you
Yes.
compound that can mean a lot.
Yeah.
If you're training hard in production,
Nothing against production.
yeah, nothing
We're just
against
talking about
production.
it, yeah.
While carry optics and limited optic shooters lap you, with faster reloads and easier stage plans, you're spending more to get less.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
So the good thing is that meta doesn't play favorites. It rewards alignment.
Well, just to make sure that you guys got what meta means, most effective tactic available.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna be using that maybe when
Yeah.
they see us in the range. Hey,
Right.
meta boys.
Meta boys. I like that.
Okay, so again, that's actually good. In fact, what you were saying, meta doesn't play favorites.
Yeah.
It rewards the alignment that we're talking about.
Right.
In fact, that's so truth about. In fact, years ago, maybe not years ago, maybe 2 years ago. Remember your what do you call this? Your holster.
Yeah.
I was using a very different
Yes,
holster.
you were using a different brand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The brand is very popular.
Right.
But that's not gonna work for me.
Yeah.
I tried yours
Yeah.
and I kept it.
Right.
Not for anything else,
Right.
but that's the difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in the same boat.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the key factors of our sport, which is the handgun,
Yeah.
right? We use the handgun, is a drawing,
Yes.
right? And you want a smoother, faster,
Yeah.
very much efficient dot to target draws.
Yes.
Right. And I see a lot of shooters have equipment, especially like the new ones.
Yeah.
Whenever they draw, it snags, or they kept it on the lock position. They
Yeah.
forgot to unlock it, and now you're struggling.
That's time.
That is time.
exactly.
Yeah. So you add all of those up.
Yeah.
You're already behind. So
Exactly.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I told you the brand, and,
Yeah.
and the next thing you know, next week you already got it.
And that was the best decision
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
that I did.
Yeah.
There are people so loyal with brands. I get you.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're looking at efficiencies, it may not be that brand might not be working for you.
Right.
So
Right.
you really have to
Right.
look into it.
Right.
So again, Meta, who is this for? This is not just for grandmasters, or what you call elite shooters.
Yeah.
It's even for new shooters.
Yep, new shooters.
Who want to go to the next level fast.
Right.
In fact, of all those things that you mentioned, that might be the key that these people are not even wanting to move forward anymore
Yeah,
because it's not
yeah.
working for them.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Right.
I was part of that. I
Yeah.
plateaued. Remember, I was limited for 4 years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then up until Miko and you knocked to my door. Okay, let me look at it. And
Yeah.
I perform better
Yeah.
in open.
Yeah.
That's meta right there.
Right. And speaking of new shooters, and even experienced
Yes.
shooters, they're trying to break that plateau.
Exactly.
And then also like coaches, right? Coaches who want better results for the team.
You should be open. You should listen to your coaches.
Right. And then even content creators looking to guide others wisely too,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
If you're just doing in one one
Content.
theme, people
Yeah.
would get tired of it.
And not only that, for me, even in my business before, I just thought that this is the only company that exists in the whole United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
Once I broke away from that, oh my God, there's thousands of better companies than that,
Right,
right?
right.
So content creators
Yeah.
look at other things too
Yep.
that can guide those people who are following you.
Yeah, yeah. This one I like. Even match directors.
Okay.
Right? Match directors wanting to build better stages.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You and I attend a
Yeah.
lot of matches every
Exactly,
year. There are matches that sells out
Yeah.
in couple minutes.
We just had it
A couple days ago.
in 5 minutes.
It's waitlist. Everybody's
Are you kidding? 5
waitlisted.
minutes? I'm waitlist.
That's not only
That's
that's
real.
only the fact, but before that, the website crashed.
Oh, yeah, that's truth. That's
Right.
the truth. It crashed because that's
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
match directors. That's the key.
Yeah.
So
Shout out Area 2.
yeah, Area 2.
We're looking forward to that.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I really had to do it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. So whether you call it meta
Yeah.
or what works, this conversation is about shooting smarter, training cleaner, and competing with intention.
Exactly.
You know,
And the reason why we want to talk about that today, of course, because we want to share and impart with you guys, what divisions are meta in 2025. That's a new way to think of it, right?
Yeah, it's a
what
takeaway.
divisions?
Yeah.
So if you are in that division, maybe this is the time to think it over.
Yeah.
If this is still the division, who knows? Just
Right.
like what you guys have,
Right. Right.
Can I use the word influence me?
Yeah.
But I love it anyway. So I saw my niche now.
Yeah.
So, and why, of course. And then which gear, the one you mentioned,
Right.
what setups are saving real time on the clock. Just that, what do you call this, a holster, when I change it,
Yeah.
my draw just changed significantly.
Right, right. And then how the new classifier system
Yes.
changes your training priorities. What drills to double down on, and what to stop doing.
Yeah.
Real shooter with examples of people who grew faster by shifting with meta.
The meta,
Yep.
and then of course by the end of this, I hope you guys will get something out of it.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to assess your own game, your own strategy, and see whatever you're doing right now is still applicable, or maybe that might be the thing that's keep on lagging you, not to go to the next level. So maybe this is the time to ask yourself, am I training the right way?
Yeah.
Or am I using the right tools?
Right,
You see?
right.
And speaking for first-hand experience, or am I in the right division?
Right. Right. I was the same way.
Yeah.
the same way. Remember, you and I, we were shooting limited.
Yeah.
I even tried
Years.
like carry optics.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it didn't really, sang and tune for me.
Yeah.
So, open.
I did it. Yeah, me too. I did it, maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
Maybe for classifier only.
Right, right.
And after that, I never went back. But
Yeah.
because I stuck to the limited. Because, again, I did not meta.
Yeah.
I just
Right.
I kept my ways.
Right,
I thought
right.
that's it.
Right.
So now, if all of this, that's not the thing, so the good news is you can adjust.
Yeah.
All you have to do is to look into it. So and once you do, and you see and you realize, the result can be dramatic.
Right. Right. So yeah, no, I those are great points. So what we can do is we can take a deep dive on what USPSA meta
Okay.
in 2025 is,
Yes.
and how you can master it.
Correct. So maybe we can even tell them that USPSA didn't just tweak the system.
No,
They actually reset now the priorities.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
For today's shooter.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So two major rule changes dramatically shifted
Okay.
in what the organization values and how the shooters are evaluated and what kind of skills are needed to level up.
Okay.
So the return of the classifier.
Yes, the 23 and
series
24, right?
23 and
Love it.
24.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've seen a couple videos already online
Yeah.
that they're shooting, and I've noticed it's very dynamic. You're moving left, right,
Yeah.
and then forward.
Walking.
Walking,
Yeah.
or some of them are running as well. So this is arguably the best, the biggest shake up of the shooter development since the expansion of carry optics.
Yes.
For years, many classifier stages were relatively just simple. Like very
Yeah.
basic,
Yeah.
often requiring very little movement.
Standing straight.
You're just sometimes in a box, right?
Yeah.
Very little decision making, and sometimes only raw shooting speed.
Yeah.
Some shooters climb the classification ranks by memorizing splits.
Yeah.
By optimizing static performances, just
Exactly.
kind of they're able to kind of call their
They
shots.
already
right?
they already know.
Yeah, yeah. So that era's over.
Well, that's right. but it's good for videos. Just
Right.
kidding.
The paper GMs.
The paper GMs.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Paper
We
GMs.
see them a lot every week.
Oh my God! And we make fun of it. But that era, you were saying,
Yeah, it's over. It's done.
over,
You
yeah.
know, so with the return of the 23 and 24 series classification, USPSA reintroduced stages that are, quite challenging.
Yeah.
Right. Footwork and entry angles.
I've seen that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The
I
footwork,
like it because
yeah.
so some of the stages they're actual stages.
Yeah.
if you think about it, because
Yes.
they're a little bit bigger. Like
Yeah.
I said, no more dynamic or no more static.
Yes.
Standing. You're gonna have to move, right? So reloads are under physical movement.
Yeah.
Shooting transitions from awkward positions.
I hate that.
Some of the barriers you're kind of leaning way left, or your weight is shifting heavily on the left side, right? So first shot efficiency when entering a shooting area, and then stage planning under stress.
Exactly. And now, the way I look at it, JM, when you do your dry fires or your footworks in your house, now it's going to be intentional.
Right.
You know, you would now know how to really address it,
Yeah.
because now you would know how to attack whatever is
Right.
this stages, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So these classifiers at what you were mentioning a while ago, dynamic,
Right.
more realistic, because the size is not
Yeah,
just
yeah.
you're just standing up and just
Right.
shoot for just shooting, and of course now it's more demanding.
Right.
I've seen that in the classifiers lately. It really is making us move.
Yeah.
And that actually, tests our
Yeah.
capacity, you know.
Yeah.
And that shift favors, okay? So shooters who train full stages, not just flat drills, you know. So that's going to be a shift favor.
Right.
Competitors who understand movement economy. So
Right.
are you, in fact, guys, are you trying to practice that movement? And you will see now all over USPSA stages.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of movement.
Right,
So are
right.
you practicing that? People who drive fire with intent and simulate classifiers, the one that I was telling you.
Yeah.
That's why this morning I was thinking, am I still
Yeah.
practicing?
This is still relevant.
Oh yeah,
you know.
is it relevant to the stages out there?
Yeah.
You know, so you have to ask
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know, now you're becoming athletes now. Okay,
Yeah.
kudos to you, Migs. Right? You're not just a shooter now.
Right. Yeah, no, it's not just about hitting fast anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's how you move when you shoot, and how fast you can execute
Yeah.
clean transitions.
Exactly.
You know.
I agree. Maybe we can have a quick look at that.
The
classifier 23.
CM23-01.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at this one, so people can actually picture it.
Are you ready? Stand by.
There you go.
There. Dynamic.
So Subs has done this before. Yeah.
You've seen this on
Yeah,
2301.
we've
right?
shot this. We've shot this
Yeah.
before, so it's good because going back to the match directors,
Yeah.
right? Whenever we sign up for local matches, right, like level 1 stuff, sometimes it's usually like 6+1 or a 5+1, like 5 stages plus 1
Yes.
classifier, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes we hear shooters, I'm like, oh man, there's a classifier. You want to get your money's worth, but when you get to that stage for the classifier, it's a real stage. So
Yes.
this falls,
Yeah.
if a match director uses the 23 and 24
It's a
series,
stage.
it's a stage.
Yeah.
It looks like a stage. It feels like a stage.
As what you're saying, gone were the days.
Right.
You know?
Because before it would just be like the boxes, and then you'll just stand there and shoot the paper. That's
Okay.
it.
Time 4.3. Oh my God.
It looks good, right?
It looks good.
And then-
I told you, what's that? Paper GM or video GM?
Yeah, and then you get beaten by a C-class
Oh my
shooter
God.
in
What happened?
a real actual match.
Because okay, on that video, what's now being tested that wasn't before.
Yeah.
Number one, when you saw that video, first
Yeah.
shot entry, you're no longer drawing from a fixed box, the one
Yeah.
that you were saying.
Right.
You're moving into a position already,
Yeah.
and taking that first shot while entering hard cover, or maybe sometimes there's activating swinger or establishing a stance.
Yeah.
A while ago, you'd see that you really have to establish your stance,
Yeah.
because of that lean.
Right. Right. And then for other divisions, like reload on the run.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you saw, the first entry point there on the left-hand side.
Yep.
And then you have a gap there, and then you have an array of target.
Yeah.
And then you have another gap, and then you have your last shot,
That's
right?
right.
So where would you plan your reload if you need to reload?
reload.
Right? You can't afford to stop, reload and re-engage. That's going to eat up your time.
That's right.
So these classifiers require efficient reloads while transitioning. from one shooting area to the next.
That's right.
So again, how do you do that? Grip control, mag well use in limited optics or open.
Yeah, us we need that, right?
And muscle memory now matters more than ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on that video too, clear transition. So the new classifier demands target to target transition.
Yeah.
You see the movement there a while ago. That was actually done very nicely.
Yeah,
While navigating that space. When you look at it, there you go again.
Yeah, here we go again. See that gap right there?
That's
Or another one right here.
There you go.
So for limited shooters, if you're if you need to reload or if you have a malfunction.
a malfunction. Yeah.
Right.
How fast can you rebound?
How fast can you troubleshoot that and reload?
But that one, you're no longer just swinging the gun.
No.
So that's the thing. So you're moving your body, shifting balance.
Yeah.
That's what it is, And again, the one that you were saying on the last shot, or even at the beginning, you're reacquiring sight picture on the fly.
Yep.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And then that's actually going to be helping you get your what do you call this? You're going to the next level just because of that. So in short, guys, USPSA wants us to know how well we shoot on the move.
Yep, that's
You've
it.
seen that movement. Not just how fast you shoot while standing still.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. No, and also, accumulating all of these points are standardized hit factors.
Yes.
Right. The second major change in the quiet, this quiet revolution in fairness is classification hit factors are now standardized.
I've seen
nationwide.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
In the past, some of the shooters could kind of farm soft classifiers at low level matches with inflated hit factors, benchmarks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it just feels weird sometimes. On these matches, you can really do well, and then you inflate it, and then I don't know. To me, it just doesn't look okay.
For me, I just shoot because that's how I shoot.
And then also other regions have tougher match setups, right? Other areas of the country or stage construction, meaning shooters are there to work harder, earn the same classification percentage.
Yeah.
Those are gone.
Those are bye-bye now.
Yeah. So this year your classification hit factor is calculated against a national database.
That's what I'm saying.
Average.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
So that's a great setup. So what that means for everybody.
Yes.
Your 85% in Nevada here is the same as someone's 85%, in Florida or elsewhere.
In fact, when I learned about this one, I love this. You can actually see your performance now on a bigger perspective, not just because of this one game.
Right. Right. If you run, you do same classifier 3 times in a row, 3 in 3 places, your performance is now judged against the same benchmark.
Okay. So what this means for the shooter?
No more gaming. Damn.
Did you see how we laughed? We laughed.
Yeah.
Okay.
We laugh. We laugh like that. That's an evil laugh. You can't cherry pick classifiers or get the easy bumps.
That's right.
By shooting matches for known for soft setups. The system now demands authentic, repeatable, skill-driven,
which is supposed to be
performances.
That's right.
So true skill rises. Right. This is the saying that the real true shooters would come out. Those who have well-rounded skills, not just raw speed. Just nothing, no spray and pray. Those well-rounded skill shooters will rise. The shooters who train transitions, develop smart stage plans, and practice movements and reloads, they're all going to flourish.
I think we're there. We're there. Guys, this one are more meaningful classifications now.
Yeah.
Because your classification will now more accurately reflect your actual ability. Because sometimes, when I score in this game, at the back of my head, is this actually gonna be my score when I go to another range?
Right.
You see, I know what do you call this, because it measures your ability across multiple skill categories. Right? So now, because of this new classification, this builds integrity in the sport and motivates shooters to train smarter, not just game harder.
Right.
Gamers out there.
Yeah. No. So just so everyone's aware and everybody's clear about this, not all USPSA divisions are created equal, right? We've talked about this earlier regarding, let's say, limited or revolver and whatnot, especially in 2025, right? Rule changes, equipment flexibility, scoring trends, and shooter migration have shifted the landscape.
Yes.
So it's not like
I've seen
it's
that
before,
too.
right? So couple breakdowns of what's hot and what's rising, what's situational, what may be worth leaving behind or switching. For that matter.
Okay.
We all know the most popular division is still carry optics, right?
Still the king.
It's still the king, right? you can see the numbers on major matches.
Yeah, the match breakdowns.
Yeah, the
you
match
could
breakdown.
See,
it still
They
continues.
dominated,
It continues to dominate local and national match attendance, and that's for a good reason, right?
Okay.
Red dot, it's fast target acquisition, and then you still have the high capacity of the 140 millimeter mags, right? It'll fewer reloads. That's 22, 23, maybe 24. Carry optics is not my division, but
what? You're changing mags already? Just kidding.
Right. So 9mm minor. It's soft. Soft recoil. You can tune the gun there with your loads, and then it's modern handguns.
Yeah.
Right. It's affordable and a reliable platform. Whether it's a all metal frame or a striker fired carry optics, right? And it's allowed internal mods.
Yes.
You can fine tune triggers, internals, and the guide rod for performance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's carry optic, and then guys, this division where most shooters are starting the carry optics, and then
it's a good starting platform,
and many choose to stay.
Right.
Right. Because the tools are forgiving and the training curve is actually fast on a carry optic. That's not bad at all, guys. It's just how our preferences are all different. So and carry optic thrives in both classifiers and full stages. That's what I like about it. And it performs well in movement. Heavy stages out there because of what you mentioned, the low recoil.
Right. Right.
So
it's classifier friendly also because the dot acquisition is faster on transitions and entry loads. And then also you can build your rig, a competitive rig, without going broke or breaking the bank.
I like that. But the truth is, I've seen, especially our group here, our community here, people really stuck to carry optics, the same rig, nothing changed, and they just keep on going, and it lasts. So
it works.
It works.
Right?
So what's the next one? Limited optics?
Yeah, that's the rising star for the past couple years now.
2 years,
with being provisional and now permanent, right? So limited optics again, also in some of the matches, is growing very quickly and gaining popularity among experienced shooters. And those also with the building modern double stack guns with red dots. I think it was just a matter of time. A lot of the 2 gunners, 3 gunners, and multi-gun were already involved with the limited optics setup. 2011 with a dot on top. Right when it transitioned to USPSA just kind of opened up the floodgates.
There you go.
So in LO or limited optics, you get optics on the slide, which is the visual benefits of carry optics.
Yeah, they got it there.
Right,
Yeah.
and then bigger magwells.
Yeah, which is not in carry optics.
No, in LO you can do that, and more forgiving of the reloads is what we know. And then high capacity magazines.
Yes.
Again, 140. Reload only sometimes one time, or even some stages not at all.
Not at all.
And then few restrictions. A lot more. Forgiving of the restrictions. Basically, a red dot ready limited gun.
Yeah.
Can
you imagine our limited right now? No, well, it's 40. I would use 40. I would rather use 9mm.
Yeah,
it's the same, right? You were saying.
I've actually shot limited optics. I've shot limited optics in a couple matches. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's again if the transition was very minimal because of the 2011 platform that we've used to. So it's.
And this morning you were mentioning limited optic is minor scoring,
Yeah, it's
whether
minor
it's
scoring.
9mm or 40.
40, yeah.
So
some other folks that already has a 40 platform in limited, they just have it, have an optic put on top or mill it or put one on. And then they just do, their loads like a little bit softer.
That's it.
Than major,
So limited optic, guys, lets you shoot aggressively, reload comfortably, and build a rig with minimal compromises. So it rewards confident movement if that's the case. You may mentioning about this very fast dot reacquisition and aggressive shooting. I love aggressive shooting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about open.
Yes, our division. Yay!
Yes.
With open, it's a high risk, high reward.
That's true.
Right. This is the drag racing of the USPSA division. Open is still the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
When it comes to pure performance, but it does come with a cost.
Ka-ching!
Aside from the monetary value of that. But you get what do you get if you shoot open, right?
Right.
It's major scoring.
There you
right?
go.
So a lot more forgiving for less than perfect hits.
Yeah.
So even if you delta, then you're still okay. Compared to a minor, which is 1 point.
Yeah.
Optics and comps, right? And then also 170 millimeter mag.
If you're happy with 140, we're happy with
170. We're happy with much happy with 170, and it's just raw speed, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason why you can double tap fast because of that comp. Custom guns, and this is the fun part. Is you get it needs to be tuned for maximum performance. So even if there are builders out there that are out of the box, builders, you still need to fine tune it.
It's not automatic.
No, it's not automatic, right? So there are some kind of on the flip side that you have to be aware of. Because it requires a big budget.
Yeah,
you mentioned the sound of the ka-ching. Yes, it is expensive. There are some builds there that are starting from $4,000 that goes all the way to 11 or 12,000.
Yeah.
Depending on your taste and your how you want. Your preference.
That's right. That's why I had a good friend. He was never a competitive shooter, and he was so ready in buying an open gun.
Yeah.
And I told him, hey, I just want to make sure that I tell you the expectation of an open gun. It's just the start.
Yeah.
Buying the gun is just a start.
Yeah.
And you have to have your reload and have to learn like this. It adds up. But then again, if that's the division that you want, you go ahead. But you need to know what comes with it.
Right. And that's one good thing about our shooting community is we can always lend our voice and give advice.
That's right.
And at least a precaution. You can spend your own money wherever. We could care less. But if you are, going to, if you don't have any prior experience, you want to ask. Yeah, you want to ask around. It does require a big budget, but also not only once you have your open gun, it demands routine maintenance.
Oh
regular maintenance, right?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I'm very OCD after a match on a weekend. I will clean my gun
Me too.
right away.
Before I even put it in the cabinet.
Right. So away, make sure and then inspect everything.
Yeah.
You know, and then you know, again, it's a rinse and repeat, but it has a very steep learning curve.
Yes, I agree on that. You know, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
You really have to make sure that you know the gun.
Right.
You're in sync with the gun.
Yeah, it's different, right? You and I came from limited, and the splits were way different.
What different? Yeah.
The acquisition. Remember, we're iron sights.
Yeah, and now it's red dot.
Now it's red dot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it remains a very meta for elite.
Yes.
Shooters and you know the pros, but most club level shooters find the cost, maintenance and learning demanding pretty steep. You know?
I agree with that. You know, so that's open for them.
Yeah,
that's open for you guys. But you know, it's your preference. You know, at least this is just guiding you.
Yeah.
And who knows? Just like you and me, we came from limited.
Yeah.
We method. We method.
Right.
Just to emphasize the past tense there. But yeah, we method because we went from limited to open, and we found our game in the open.
Right.
You know?
Right. You know, in the whole conversation of this topic, when I first started, I had the mentality of, I'm going to buy every gear for every division and every gun, right? So there's a carry optic, there's a limited, there's a there's a production, there's PCC, right? And I'm gonna try, but eventually you're gonna settle to one. But obviously, not the best route. That I took, right? Because financially and all that, you have to be.
That's going to be
spending.
heavy,
right? It is heavy. It's no joke. But if that's your thing, go ahead. But for me, if I would have kind of redo the approach, I would have just focused on at least 1 to 2 divisions. And that's it.
That's right.
So now I've settled to just one division. After so many years, right?
Yeah. So again, at the end of the day, it's going to be your preference, how you want to, go about your journey in the competitive shooting. Okay. So again, now let's talk about production. Production once it reigned the USPSA.
It did. It did.
I think it was a gold standard. Even
IPSC it's still reigning. Pretty well there.
There you go.
In that division.
Yeah, but in 2025, maybe this year, I don't know. Maybe it feels outdated. Not guys to demean or what have you on production. But for me, since we're talking about meta, maybe it's off the meta now.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a 10-round mag limit.
Yeah.
So more reloads, even in classifiers.
Right.
But when I was new, people were saying, hey, if you really would want to become so good in reloading, you will want to start in production. Nothing bad at that, if that's what it is. But again, for me right now, we're talking about meta. It's going to be off the meta anymore already, right?
Yeah.
So, and besides the 10-round limit, it's minor scoring.
Yeah.
So it punishes poor shot placement. And then you can go to me, hey, if you're accurate, just hit all alpha.
Right.
But then again, it's a 10-round limit.
Yeah.
So
I think the bridge there is you shoot alpha on a faster way, right? And then try to mitigate your deltas or your mics, right?
Yeah.
And even your Charlies. So that's where the gap where you need to focus on if production is really truly your division.
Yes, right.
But to your point, again, when it comes to gears, it's stricter.
Oh yeah,
right. It limits your ability to tune guns for performance.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah. So with so many restrictions and very little advantage in return, production is kind of now one of the hardest division to climb in, especially with new shooters.
Correct.
Yes. There are still some great production shooters there that challenges themselves, like M's and GM's that we see, in our matches. But it rewards perfection, but leaves no margin for error.
That's true. Production.
In the current meta, it's a losing game.
Again.
So you see production shooters usually at the bottom or middle of the bottom because again, with the reloads and slower sight acquisition and,
That's right.
iron sights.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And not for anything else. Again, the only reason we're talking about that is because we're talking about Meta right now. You know?
right.
So how about PCC?
This is PCC is a very powerful but situational gear. It's the outlier division.
Okay.
Right. It shoots minor, but it's a longer barrel, long gun. You get 30 rounds or more.
or more. I
right?
remember one of our friends, right? So one of the local matches.
Yeah.
Hey, look at my magazine. 60 round.
Oh my goodness. 60 round with another 60 round reload. That's like the entire match. Half of the match already.
No reload.
No reloads.
I'm just kidding. But it is.
One good thing about PCC is virtually no recoil, especially if you're able to tune your ammo.
Yeah.
Right. And you can achieve this with ultra fast splits.
Okay.
It dominates on open field stages with long transitions. That's but in tight, closer classification stages, it might be a little awkward reloads or cumbersome movement because of that rifle, and unnatural entry and exit mechanics. So that's where the challenge.
Not unless you're like our good friend Rick. His gun is all over.
Right. Rick or Migs, right?
Or Migs,
they can jump and they can.
I don't know how they do it, but they're just so fast.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. So again, being meta on that one, they found their perfect division, right?
That's right.
So again, PCC is a fast, fun, and rewarding division, but it doesn't scale well across all classifier formats. It is sometimes meta division.
All right. So those are the guns. Those are the divisions, right? In the beginning, you were talking about gears,
right?
So we can meta the gears too. And I am one of them that I meta.
Yeah. I like gears.
I like gears, right? So because guys, in USPSA 2025, your gear setup isn't just about what feels comfortable. Or this is most of the people look good on the bench,
right?
So it's about what saves you time on the clock, because that's what you're there for. You're competing. Well, forget about other people, to yourself, because you want to be consistent.
Right.
You want to be consistent, especially under pressure and across multiple stages, right? So that's what it is. So gears should meta as well.
Right. It's like treating a gear like an afterthought, right? It's all about the shooter, and you're missing out one of the most controllable advantages in competition.
That's right.
So there are, to me, I think there's 4 gear components that define the current meta and why they matter so much more this year. Right, and I think the first one is red dots.
Yeah, I've seen that how mixed method on the red dot.
Yes, so we specifically studied how the wider. It's wider the better.
Yes.
So red dots that will work with you, not against you, to that purpose, right? So red dots are now standard in carry optics, limited LOs,
are open,
and even PCC, right? And the market is very saturated, but not all red dots are created equal.
Oh, I believe you.
Yeah, there's variety of prices and budget for every kind of shooter. But in the current meta, best dot offers fast acquisition. Again, larger window.
The one you mentioned, right?
With minimal housing structure or obstruction, and then minimal parallax shift.
Yes.
Right. The dot stays true to across the eye position, and then reliable brightness settings.
Yes.
Right. That doesn't wash out or flicker. On mid stage.
Oh, that's crazy! If that happens in mid stage,
right?
Oh,
so, just a quick example: Area 2 and left out match.
Okay.
There are stages there where the sun
rises
right right towards you, and the stage is in front of you.
Yeah.
And then when you go like this to your dot, it bursts.
Yeah,
Right. Certain dots burst.
Yeah,
right.
certain,
So again, in that situation,
need to know. Yeah.
in that situation, you need to know what kind of dot would work. Right.
Exactly.
And then durability under recoil. Right.
Which is actually where the dots are being tested.
Right.
What's the quality there?
Yeah, especially in open. In open, it beats that slide up. Where slide speed is very extreme. Right. That's why it's frame mountain.
Yeah.
But also in limited optic, that dot sits on the slide.
And one thing I learned too on dots, guys, is about your eye too.
Right.
If you're farsighted and nearsighted, you will see it so different. The dots we all look at the dots differently.
Right.
So 3 MOA and 6 MOA, those are things that you need to consider.
So with a real life example was when we went to World Shoot. Mm-hmm. Again, it's a 6 days of shooting, right? 3 out of those 6 days were raining.
Wow.
So again, if Miggs was using his older dot, the red dot would have been bursting.
That's right.
So he switched. He's like 2 months before World Shoot, he started training with a different dot, and it's an enclosed dot.
That's
so when it rained, the dot is still a dot.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't burst.
Good timing. Good research.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that kind of doesn't just help you shoot faster. It helps you see faster in that scenario, right? Which directly impacts your ability to engage targets confidently and call the shots.
Especially on a 50-yard.
Especially on a 50-yard or 80 yards.
80 yards.
Yeah.
That's crazy, you know. There's that method. That's a meta right there.
Right.
Yeah, let's talk about short reset triggers that don't lie.
Yeah.
Because in minor division, guys, carry optic, limited optic, PCC, precision shot calling matters more than ever. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys have tried that when you were shooting, you were actually calling your shot. Right. If it's a mic, you would know that instantly it's a mic, and you would want to give that third shot. Especially with standardized hit factors. A clean, consistent trigger is actually very critical. So you have to ask yourself with your guns, how's my trigger?
Right.
That's why sometimes when people actually talk to me about their guns, I ask them, what's your trigger?
Right.
A trigger job or all of these things, right? So meta grade triggers offer short tactile resets.
Yeah.
So faster follow-up shots. I think that's how it should be.
Right. And making sure that it's a clean brakes. With the minimal creep.
Yes.
Like to what our most of the shooters say, it's crisp.
Yeah.
Right. So it's better shot control.
Yeah.
Right. And predictable pre-travel. So no surprises or surprise hiccups under stress. And in major divisions like open, it plays a big role, or limited. Right. Heavy recoil makes the trigger control harder.
Yeah.
A sloppy trigger amplifies the chaos.
Oh yeah.
I remember you. I think you mentioned this last week. You were able to acquire one of the shooters. Our good friend. You were able to acquire his open gun, and now he was able. He changed that trigger.
Yes.
Compared to what you have.
It's huge difference. In fact, kudos to our friend Chris.
Yeah.
He did a good job on that trigger, and I could see the huge difference of similar guns, the same maker,
different
trigger.
Right.
So that's what it is. That when you like to meta, you would want to look at that trigger.
Yeah.
And it matters, guys, because classifier stages in 2025 involves more movement. Again, we were talking about classifiers a while ago. So there's going to be more movement, more transitions, and more partials.
Yeah.
In partials, oh my God, that's the trigger. You might just not think about it, but it actually helps a lot.
Right.
If that trigger is not going to be working the way that you want it, you'll see yourself changing your name to Mike.
Or that's your middle name?
That's your middle name, right? So a trigger that helps you break the shot when you're ready, is actually worth tenths of a second and you add it up, right? So
Yeah.
and prevents those C's and D's and changing your name to Mike.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, no, this next one's actually my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, flared magwells.
yeah.
Right? So I've switched after my second limited gun. I've switched to a different magwell because the magwell that I wanted was a relief cut
Yes. Yeah.
instead of just a non-relief cut, but it's still a big magwell,
Yeah.
right? So the indexing of the bottom of my palms
He's just resting there.
is just resting there instead of really I'm leaving a small percentage of my palm instead of caving it into the grip.
That's
so
right.
that mattered a lot to me, like that I needed
Special
to
and
manage-
limited, yeah.
special and limited. So now in the open they're all a bigger magwell with
Yes.
a relief cut. So
Yeah.
that part I met on that part.
So flared magwell,
Yeah,
right?
flared magwell. Reloads that don't fail.
Exactly.
Reloads are very meta crucial or critical. The new classifier stages that we have now often requires reload on on the move.
Yes.
And under entry pressure.
Yes.
A missed reload, kills your classifier, scores faster than you've missed the shot.
That's right.
Especially if you drop it, if you drop your magazine, now
You're done.
that's it. This is why flared magwells are now expected, part of any competitive LO or open setup.
And I remember you mentioned, and I mentioned it happened to me that when I reload, it didn't go to the magwell. It went to the left side.
Right.
Guys, it could happen.
Yeah,
So
it
that's
does.
why
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
right.
practice every day. And this happened to me in a classifier.
Oh,
Oops,
okay. There you go. They give you a couple things, right?
Yeah.
A large target zone for magazine
Exactly,
insertion, right? That you have a lot more area there. Faster and more forgiving reloads at awkward angles. Some of the bigger magwell are like really
It's just
concave.
gonna catch it.
It'll catch
magazine,
it, whether it's an awkward one, right, and a confidence boost on high speed entries.
That's right.
Right. So in meta context,
There you go.
right?
Yeah.
Shooters in limited optics are now using open style magwells. Very 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 similar to the open guns. Combined with the 2011 style grip modules to create a seamless reloads that work under
That's
pressure
what we want.
and speed.
Yeah.
That's
That's good. So flared magwells. Think about that. If you want a meta, think about that flared magwells. Another, maybe this is going to be the last. Belt setups. That don't move when you do. I remember when I was new, everything moves when I was moving.
yeah.
So this is actually could be the final piece of the gear that you would want to meta. This is one of the most overlooked. Your belt system, that's very important. That shouldn't move, guys. It should stay where it should be. So old school setups with floppy belts, bad mag angles, or all of this offset holsters. Now it could cost real time in stages, and then with hard movements and transitions and aggressive reload zones. So if you find yourself in those and you don't have a good belt setup, now it kills a lot of your time.
It does. It does. So meta compliant belts are rigid but lightweight. And then modular for easy configuration.
Correct.
Right. And then it secures. It's very secure whenever you're doing fast movement. It should not move, to your point. Right. No bouncing or shifting, or even your magazine falling out of that mag pouch.
Yes.
Right. So when you're running, right, and an optimized draw for reload angles. Right.
That's right.
One thing about belts, so we've gone, from the traditional style belt. I've bought a few. I've noticed that the Velcro
Yeah.
can only last a certain period of time. The
Yes.
inner belt,
Yeah.
right? So I bought a couple, you know, just in case.
Those
ones.
are not expensive anyway. So
No,
you
no,
can, you
they're
buy
like
a couple.
12 bucks,
Yeah.
15 bucks,
That's
something
right.
like that. You buy a few just to stash it. But your belt setup, to what we're discussing here, is super important.
Yeah.
Whether you're still doing the traditional Velcro or the new ones that, again, I think I can mention, like
Yeah.
the double alpha ones, right? The tiles, I've switched from the traditional ones to the tiles. I've used the tiles for a good number of years now. And it's very sturdy, and it doesn't move.
That's the most important
You
thing.
know, and then up until recently, right? This is a true story. I purchased a ratchet system.
Yeah.
About a year ago,
Okay.
and it sat in the closet because in my visual, in my visual understanding, I'm like, it's not really. It was cheap, right?
Yeah.
And it just sat in the closet. It's not really going to do anything. It's yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting to interview a couple shooters that have the ratchet system, and they're like, "No, it's secure. It's secure." I'm like, one day, I disassembled my current setup, put the ratchet on,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, "Oh wow."
Why haven't I used it a long time ago, right?
I should have, again, 1 year, it just sat there after I purchased. It was still brand new,
Yeah.
and I used it, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I mean, this is way better setup. Again,
Yeah.
realizing that you have to
Meta.
you have to meta that process, you know.
I have a similar story with you. I still have my ratchet in my cabinet. I haven't used it. I still went to
Because
my
the
old
thing
one.
is, our gun, our firearm, the open guns are heavy.
Yeah.
So it sags on
Yeah.
the right, right?
Yes,
so
that's
that's
true.
you'll often see me before, like two shooters before me. If I'm in the hole,
Yeah.
I'll put the gun on,
Yeah.
and then after I shoot, I'm gonna go to the safety table
Yeah,
and
me
put
too.
it back,
Yeah, put
right?
the bag.
Right.
I copied that from you.
Yeah.
I cannot leave
Yeah.
it in my
Yeah,
on my holster.
yeah. So in that scenario, I needed something stable and
Yeah.
and good enough to hold that gun, which is again the ratchet gave about 10-15% of that stability.
And you guys, speaking about that, now we're talking about it because it did help us. So
Right.
that's exactly what meta is all about. Now, just shooters who upgrade to a well-balanced rig with, the one you were saying, the inner belt.
Yeah,
You buy a
yeah.
couple of them just to
Yeah.
make sure it's working. Outer belts or the locking mounts and adjustable holster. With just this, you would be able to see immediate gains.
Yeah.
Not because they're more skilled, for other shooters, but because the gears actually stops on getting underway.
Right.
Right.
No, it's to your point, B shooters, let's say B shooters, right,
Yeah.
or C shooters who upgrade to a well balanced rigs or inner belt and what you're mentioning, they're going to see a significant difference.
And all they have to do is try
immediate
it.
gains. All you have to do is and try it. If the gear fights you, you're losing seconds.
Exactly.
Every second matters in this sport, right? Every error adds up. 10% of the shooters aren't just faster anymore just because they practice more.
Okay.
They've eliminated friction from their system, so their gear again helps them move fluidly, supports the reload, and it gives them visual confidence with the dot. I remember when the gun sags and the Velcro kind of gives way a little bit on your belt, it will affect your draw.
Oh, automatic.
So it's already changing.
Yeah.
If the gun is a little leaning
Yeah.
and slipping, now your draw have to be
In fact,
adjusted.
you are so true. That's so true, JM. So if I what do you call this? Dry fire every day. Whenever I do dry fire,
Yeah.
just a little movement of that
Yeah.
angle of your holster
Yeah.
and from the drawing,
Yeah.
you miss it.
Right.
You miss it. Always remember, guys, all of us shooters, we want it as high as possible.
Right.
Now, when you grip and start that sight acquisition, that's it. That's the grip. If you have a bad grip, that's going to be a bad stage for you.
Yeah. It is.
You
It
are
is,
so right. on that,
So.
yeah.
Again, stays out of the way during transitions, and you want a very tight high and tight belt,
Yeah.
and nothing falls out when you not needing to. So.
Well, you guys, we just have to, we
Yeah.
can talk a lot about meta.
Right. Yeah. No.
But those gears,
Yeah.
those what do you call it? Strategies, dry fires, or your what do you call this? Your old style to new style.
Right.
The whole idea today is we need to meta.
Right.
Right.
I love it. I like it.
I like it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we can talk about so many metas in the competitive shooting, but I think that's a wrap for us today.
Yep. That is a wrap. Yeah.
So if you guys are digging the content, lock and load that, like that button, subscribe, smash the bell so you're always in the loop. Don't use your gun.
Yeah, and again, got something in mind, just, drop us an email,
Yeah.
comment, and then we're all about leveling up together. Stay focused, stay fast. We will see you in the range. Again, thanks for joining us tonight here and
Bullet point!